All right. Okay. So, welcome to the second episode for Machine Learning for Beginners. And this evening we have with us Vaibhavi Desai, who works at Google, and also we have with us Omkar. So, just quickly reminding, like I also mentioned in the previous videos, the aim of this webinar is to help new upcoming students or graduates in the domain of machine learning how to get started with learning those things and how the industry looks like and what are the demands from ML professional. Quickly starting on the webinar as of now, I'll just quickly introduce whosoever is on the screen. I'm Jay. I'm a research assistant at Arizona State University pursuing my grad studies in artificial intelligence. Omkar, would you like to go?
Hi, I'm Omkar Damle. I am pursuing my master's in computer science at the New York University, and my focus area is on computer vision as of now. So, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Vaibhavi.
Yes.
Sure. My name is Vaibhavi. I work at Google Singapore office, and I'm a part of Developer Relations Southeast Asia team. And my work involves designing and developing programs around different area of developer focus, machine learning being the prime subject there for different audiences, and also nurturing the communities around these all topics.
All right. All right. So, like we all share a common thing within us that we all have graduated from the same undergrad college, the IICT back in India. So, how would you tell us that what was your first step in your professional career and how did you quite make it? Like from what experiences that led you to have a job as a professional, like a professional career at Google, and what did you think you quite made it? Because I remember like you were very enthusiastic about organizing GDG events and we all know we all associated your name to Google somehow back in our undergrad college. So like how did you quite make that step from student activities to a professional job at Google?
Right. So thank you so much for a great introduction. I think when I was in college, I I always want to be working at Google at some point of time, but I really had no clue on how am I going to do that, like all the other people. So what I used to do is I used to kind of grab the opportunities that I could do as a student or as a professional working in another company as well. So I did my academics well, and in addition to academics, I was a Google Student Ambassador in our college, DIICT. So I established a Google Students Club in there, and then the idea was to kind of make people aware about internet and getting the next billion users, as we say. So I was doing a lot of activities that would involve from teaching how to use YouTube to an 80-year grandfather, from teaching like Python to people who are in undergrad and studying only Java and C and C++ in the college, and showing why is it important to learn Python. So while I was in college, I kind of took experience of doing all the different kind of activities, from doing one-to-one sessions to doing the hackathons to doing code myself. So I did take a part in Google Summer of Code as a student as well as mentor. So getting exposure to open source, working and founding a startup, etc. So I did a lot of things which could kind of help me gather experience to move forward. So in terms of Google, while I was a Google Student Ambassador, I got in touch with a lot of people at Google, and that was the first time where I was got exposed to the kind of opportunity we as an engineer would have going forward in the world. And just a disclaimer, I am not working as a machine learning engineer or a data scientist in Google. As I said, I'm more working in the domain of program management. So at that time, I got to know that, okay, there is also a possibility of me of pursuing a community engagement or a program management role at Google, which requires equal amount of technical knowledge as well as the acquired management skills to kind of do my job.
Yes.
And then I kind of uh, kept myself engaged with a lot of things. I applied for the Anita Box scholarship and I got, which is now known as the Women Technical Scholarship. So I received the scholarship, and this scholarship was for women pursuing computer science subjects, and I was one of the 7 people to receive that scholarship out of India and that year. So that was another jump for me, that from being a Google student ambassador, who like the person who is advocating Google's technologies, now I am recognized as a scholar. So then I could again take a next step. I worked on research projects in the college. Like, I didn't pursue the industrial internship that we have in the 8th semester, but I liked the course that I had taken, the information retrieval course, which was a master's course, but it was offered to the bachelor student who kind of scored more than a threshold. So I went to that course and I continued my research going forward. So being the scholar and then publishing a paper gave me a good exposure, like very early exposure on what machine learning is, what it could be, and what's the foundation of it. And then like out of all of this building experiences, the progression was quite natural, and running machine learning programs was not my first job. But when I got into Google, the first thing that I used to do was running a program that teaches how to learn computer science to the students in the college using Android as a platform. So I started with computer science, but then having this background of the course from my college and having published a research paper, when there was an opportunity to run a program around machine learning, I was the first one to say that, hey, I know how these things works and I can do it. And that is how I got that opportunity. So I was in India for 2 years running different programs there in computer science and machine learning education. And I moved to Singapore a year back. So yeah, that has been the kind of journey.
Getting involved and making the most of your opportunities.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, how did you a bit on the technical side? How did you prepare yourself, or which projects did you do to like get the skills, and which skills did you have prior to joining as a machine learning program management role?
Right. So as I mentioned, I had taken the course information retrieval and I landed on a project of Microsoft Research, which was about, let me remember, that was back transliteration and labeling of words between the languages and the scripts that we have. So let's take Hindi as the most popular language. So if you are given like kaha, so you will write it in the Roman script, which is KAHA. So my role was to identify from a paragraph, take a word written in Roman script, identify which language that words belongs to. So KAHA converts to Hindi language. So first identify the language and then back transliterate it to write it in the Devanagari script. So that is back translation. So I worked on this task, and at that time there were 3 languages. English, English was the common language, but then Gujarati, Hindi, and Bengali. And I worked with Professor Majumdar there. He guided a lot on how to approach this. First, I was so excited that I'm getting on something real life data, because this was a real life data somewhere got from IIT Kharagpur, I would say. And then I published a paper after working. Oh, so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. I guess we can cut this part out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sorry. I don't know whom I had at in the morning, my office time. Okay.
That's fine.
So yeah, I was saying that I worked on the research project, and then as I said, when I was in Google, I used all the resources that we have internally to learn machine learning. So let's say from where I stopped was that project, and getting into Google, whichever are the products that were going to launch, or whichever are the courses that was going to launch, I kind of went through them just sitting in the office and learning through them. And just one of the example of that is Google's machine learning crash course. That was a course that was used in Google to train like thousands of engineers for 2 or 3 years before it got launched externally. So I went through courses like this, and for me, another advantage was being surrounded by good machine learning engineers or people who were also learning machine learning, right? So I used to meet a lot of software engineers and a lot of machine learning engineers, and I just learned by talking with them. Like, how do you define this? Where do you see the future? As a beginner, what should I do? And like, how can we apply this particular algorithm or this particular model to this particular problem? So yeah, it's mainly by the course project, the internal resources that we had at Google, and then talking with the engineers at Google.
Yes, definitely. And like you mentioned, like you work with a lot of machine learning engineers as of now at Google. So can you tell us, like, there is also always a confusion. People are always blinded with the applications of how cool machine learning is and how amazing products of machine learning look like. And Google is one of the leading companies who deal with these kind of projects. So what are the ideal duties of a machine learning engineer or any kind of engineer, say, related to data science or machine learning projects? What are the ideal duties he works on? Is it just pure programming, or what are the other factors that makes it different from just the normal conventional software development? Can you just tell us what is a day in the how a day looks like a machine learning engineer at Google?
Sure. Great question, because I have a lot to share about this.
Awesome.
So I would say first, I would say how are the engineers that I have come across. That doesn't mean that all the people who work in Google are like that, but yeah, some insights for you. So I have come across two types of people. One who are pure in the SWE ladder that you call as the software engineering, and then there are some people who are specifically hired to do the machine learning stuff. So both the people reach at the one level at some point of time, but the journey is different. So the software engineers that we have are working on different products, let's say, right? There is no product of Google that doesn't use machine learning in today's world. So they are working on the product, and as per the requirement of the market, they are kind of asked to implement ML in their kind of product or in their features, right? So this kind of people go through the internal trainings and internal resources. Like, we have tons of programs for the software engineers in Google to make them more familiar and hands-on with machine learning. So and those people are very much similar to what we have, like what people from kind of our college or other colleges get in that at the very entry level. So it's not required to kind of have the ML knowledge before you get into Google. You can get into a role of software engineering and then reach to the machine learning stage as well. And the other kind of people that I come across are purely machine learning kind of experts. And like, so far, whoever are the machine learning experts I've come across with are PhDs. So people who have pursued their PhD in machine learning, deep learning, NLP, neural networks, etc. There's also a third segment of people that I recently has been booming in Google, is the trainers. Because as the interest in machine learning increases, the demand in teaching machine learning also increases.
Right.
And I think Google invests a lot in the trainers who can teach machine learning and the technologies and the products that revolve around it to the people. So there are very different kind of things that you could do. You can come and code on a problem and just see how do you use machine learning. Your second option is you're given the machine learning problem that some team has identified, and you just help them kind of consulting on how to solve it or just solve that problem. And another thing is you be a trainer and train the world, right?
Yes.
And some of the profiles that I've come across are business analyst, because they also require the ML background, data scientist, data engineer, ML practitioner, and then there's one for the trainer. It's just called instructor. So I would say, yeah, machine learning instructor. And another one is the tech writers, because as we increase the products, TensorFlow, Cloud ML, we need to write courses, we need to write documentations. So those are the tech writers or instructional designer, as you say. So yeah, a lot of things that an ML enthusiast can do. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Yes, yes, definitely.
All right.
And how would you say, like, I'm not sure if you might be the right person to ask this question, but how does an ML recruitment look like? I mean, what can be the ideal requirements of a machine learning engineer from Google's perspective? What makes an ideal candidate they might look forward to, the ideal skills they have?
As I said, I have never interviewed for that role,
Mm-hmm.
and I have just met people. So I don't know how is their interview experience look like. But for the people who get into the software engineering role, it is pretty much the same, which everyone has been talking about, like 3 to 4 interviews where you kind of are required to code, and you're given a blank document in which you can code on the question in any language that you want to. ML engineer might be a different way, since I said most of them are like PhDs in their domain.
Yes.
But I think they would be a better person to answer that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And again, like curious about if you might be the right person to ask this question, but if a person is serious about doing a machine learning or pursuing machine learning as their profession, would you suggest that doing a master's or a higher education apart from their bachelor's is something an ideal thing to be considered, or like you said, he should be targeting on getting a software engineering job and later transitioning into the machine learning products or application domain in the company? What are the pros and cons of both these things? You might have seen both the aspects over there. So
Definitely.
what is your take on this one?
Right. So this answer would be again more from what I've seen at Google. Doing a master's is not always a necessary thing, unless it's also your personal goal that, okay, I want to do a master's, right? So I have seen a lot of people who come from the software engineering background and build a great kind of profile out of their experience working on different things, and then getting into Google in ML related role, like the data scientist or the business analyst. Those are not like all PhDs. I was mainly talking about the machine learning engineers, right?
Yes.
So there are different ways to kind of enrich your profiles. I would say pros and cons. Let's say if you are studying in India, you want to take an exposure outside, you go for masters. You want to kind of you are still not clear what is your expertise, and you want to explore 5 advanced topics, then you go for masters.
Right.
But if you know what you want to do, then you just need to kind of make the best use of the resources that are available online. Like there are no resources that there is no way the resources are not available which you kind of study in masters. But I completely agree that masters give you a dedicated environment to take your projects and skills to the next level. But that is not kind of a necessary thing to get into such roles. Just as an example, I recently met an engineer who did his engineering from somewhere in Delhi, and then he even did not do the engineering in computer science. That was somewhere in electrical science, electrical engineering or something. And then he got interested into software. So his first job was developing a website and doing software engineering stuff. And then he got to know that some company was opening a machine learning department, and it was in his connection. And he was asked, because of his temperament of learning, that do you want to take this up? So he said that I don't know anything, but if you give me the guidance, because the person hiring was a PhD. So it's like, if you give me the guidance, I can do whatever you want. So that is where he learned to build models and the machine learning. Like he was a trainer in one of my boot camps, and he kind of said, like, whatever I have learned, I owe to that person who hired me. And then he landed to a job in Google.
Wow.
Right? So it could be different journeys. And in fact, there was another engineer in Bangalore whom I met. He was also like, he had done something like chemical engineering and all. And then these kind of people without a master degree land at a job in Google and then work on such areas like machine learning.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
basically, it's not necessary to do a master's. If you are interested, you should do it.
Yeah, it's not necessary, but it has its own kind of charm of doing it, connecting to the new professors, new community. Also, if you want to move to a new location, then it helps. Let's say both of you are studying there, you want to find a job there, settle in, then it definitely helps a lot. So the journeys could be different, but it's not necessary to do that.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned some of the boot camps that Google organizes, and like I know that you organize a lot of machine learning related boot camps on LinkedIn, and like I follow your activity over there. So like, would you like to share something about that to our audience? Like what exactly those boot camps are, and how can they get benefit of those boot camps?
Sure. So machine learning bootcamp is something that I started last year in June. And the reason behind starting that was there was a strong need from the developers. So when I talk about the developers, it's the external community. So not people in Google, but from outside, from our communities and our programs. So there was a strong need from these people that they want to know what machine learning is. They want to kind of, even if they're working in a data science or a data engineering position, they still not know what it is, why should we use it, and when do we not use it, right? So foundation of machine learning, and then what Google has to offer to kind of make their lives easier. So that is how we designed a 4-day long curriculum, which has training, which has discussions, which has lightning talks, and also a lot of opportunity of networking. So we started in Singapore. We expanded that in different countries in Southeast Asia last year. And the audience, the tricky point is that this is a very exclusive invite only event. The audience being startups and enterprises. So if someone wants to be a part of it, I believe that would have to come through their company or their startup route. Because we directly kind of are in touch with the companies and the startup, and they nominate their employees. So it's not open for all, but yeah, keep an eye out for that. So that's the reason you would probably never see a call for applications or a registration form. It's an invite only, and see if in your connection someone can nominate you. It's always great. Another option is, we are bringing machine learning bootcamps to India this year, and I'm very excited about it. So you will see bootcamps happening across India. And another idea could be to be in touch with the communities, the local communities that exist in India. Let's say the Google Developer Group is a very famous community. So if you are in touch with the local community, express them your interest, and then when they hear about it, maybe they can nominate you. But yeah, so communities, companies, startups, I think these are the possible channels that you can participate.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, just again focusing on the audience that we have as of now. So the people who are really enthusiastic about machine learning but still find a way hard to get into the actual understanding of how to get started with the machine learning, because I started my journey as a interested machine, I won't say a machine learning engineer, but interested machine learning engineer back in my first year of undergrad college, when I was interested and driven by the application domain. But I really struggled on finding the right amount of resources, or the particular resource, because it's a huge pool out there on the internet, but not everything is really understandable or really approachable over there. So, and you yourself are helping Google building a community of machine learning engineers. So what would you suggest from the perspective of a newbie engineer who doesn't have much domain knowledge but has the enthusiasm to learn those things? How should he approach, or how should he develop his mindset or career to be focused on such a domain?
Okay, great question again. In terms of learning, I think there are again two type of people. One who are completely geeky, who want to sit in the room, don't want to go outside, and they still want to be like expert ML engineers. And the second, who love talking with people, who love going outside, and they also want to be a great ML engineer. So I will probably talk for both the things, but I would suggest if there's a mix of both, then it's the best.
Oh.
So for the first kind of people, I would suggest joining courses. Specializations would really help, because now in today's era where it's really not possible to go and attend the classes physically, we have rich content available online, which makes you feel like you are in a classroom, which has the deadlines, the timelines, which has group assignments that you can do, and you can also earn certificate and recognition that you can use to put it on your resume, and that could help landing you a job, right? So I would suggest check Coursera. Again, talking from Google's point of view, if you want to learn machine learning, there is a specialization called data engineer specialization.
Okay.
So this specialization consists of 4 to 5 courses. So one course could be 10 hours or a week or so, and maybe the specialization, if you dedicatedly work on it, would take around a month to finish. But it leads you to from the point one on what is ML, what is big data, to the point where you are like a certified data engineer.
Right.
So one suggestion is take this kind of specialization. There would be a lot of other specialization available as well, but I have seen people benefited out of it a lot.
Right.
And it kind of is very aligning with what you're asking as well. So that is one. Another resource that I love is google.ai. So
Yes.
go to google.ai, go to tools and resources, and then on the left side there's a column where you could select that I am a beginner, I am an intermediate, I'm looking for resources like this, and then according to your requirements, the filters that you set, they will kind of show you the relevant resources. And I think if you kind of do these two things, more than enough to give you a foundation of topics. Once you get that, then I strongly suggest to take some hands-on project, whether it is if you're a student and if you want to do some part-time work with a startup, go and tell them that I have like 10 hours a week free, and can you just give me some project where I could use this? I have taken the specialization, I know what things are, but I want a real life experience. And it's okay if they don't pay you, but you are getting a great experience. And even if you are doing your job in other domain and you want to switch, you can still do this like on the weekends, right? They would be more than happy to have you.
Right.
So specializations, working on real life project. You could also work on open source projects. Like if you see GitHub, there are a lot of TensorFlow projects out there. Go contribute in the forums, join the Slack channels, discussions, and from there you will just land up on a project. I'm pretty sure if you have the right kind of skill set, It's not going to be difficult. And you can say that I don't have an experience, but I have the knowledge. Give me the opportunity. Okay, so these are the two things for them. For the people who really like to go outside, I would say go and talk to the communities. In today's world, whether it is US, whether it is Singapore, or whether it is India, there are like thousands of communities out there from whichever city you are. There are communities, and I'm not only talking about the Google communities. There are communities like ML communities, data science communities, there are Pi data communities, there are Python users group, there are Pi ladies, then there's the Kubernetes group that I know about. Then obviously, if you talk about Google, it's Google Developer Group, Women Tech Makers. So pick the community that you like. If you are very much into machine learning, you might want to go for the ML specific community. If you are very much into TensorFlow, you might want to go for the TensorFlow user group. And if you're very much into learning cloud element of it, you may want to go to the cloud communities out there. So go to the communities, attend the session, meet the speaker, get in touch with them, know how has been their journey like before reaching to this point. Talk to them. Another thing, to get involved, the next step would be go and deliver lectures or sessions or talk on what you have learned. Let's say if you take just like big data fundamentals course on Coursera, and you just go there and talk about it. Like, what did you learn out of a course as a beginner? What were your challenges, and what do you, and then just open up, like, this is what I've learned, what can I do next? Just imagine a room full of like 50 people who are ML practitioners, and you're asking them these questions. Why would they not answer? Like, they would have been in the same position at you some time back, right? And if you don't like speaking, then you could write blogs, you can have your channels and a lot of things around it. So by writing, you kind of reinforce the learning that you've done, and you kind of learn how to put things into words. And that writing could not only be like philosophy, but you can take a project and write about it on how did you approach, and maybe leave it on a stage where you don't know what to do next, and then open it up, talk to your friends, what do I do next? I have always seen that when you go and talk to someone that, hey, I'm stuck, what do I do? There is not a single person who has discouraged me saying that, hey, really, Vaibhavi, I don't know what to do. If you ask a question, you will get answers, right? So yeah, I think these are the few things that I would recommend. Another resource is Kaggle. Kaggle has so Kaggle is a platform which Google recently acquired, and it has problems listed on machine learning. So you go open a Kaggle challenge, you can make a group of 3 to 4 people, and then you can win thousands of dollars as well if you win the competition. If you don't win the competition, you get the experience. So if you are someone who want to work with 4 people together on a problem and who believes in collaborative learning, then take on the projects like this. You don't have kind of an excuse that I don't have a project. Just go to the Kaggle and take one project. Right. So yeah, these are some points that I have.
Yes, this is super helpful. This is great for people like us to learn from where we should be approaching for the next steps. I guess that's all I guess I have for as of now questions. And would you like to have any tips or any master suggestions, like just in general for any of the young undergraduate students or graduate students like me? Just any tip of advice, in general, not related to the domain of machine learning.
I would say keep your eyes and ears open. ML is the biggest thing today. It may not be tomorrow. So irrespective of what is trending in the world, you have to keep yourself updated, and that is going to be the way to survive in the world of technology, right? So it could be any way by keeping yourself updated, but don't kind of get attached to any technology, any platform, or any topic a lot that you cannot move to the next big thing. So keep eyes and ears open and keep exploring.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Thanks a lot. I mean, this interview was great, and it was much better than expected. So this is really helpful. This is great. And
Thank you so much for inviting.
Yes.
I always keep sharing these things with people around me, but if there's a possibility that people whom I don't know as well are able to kind of get some insights, and if it is useful for even like 0.001%, I feel good about it.
Yes, definitely. We plan to make this community much more happening, and definitely people can hopefully reach out to you in case they have any help. So yeah,
Sure.
sure. Thanks a lot for taking the time for this one. Thanks.
Most welcome.
Sure.